Good day and welcome. Hope you're having a great day and all. This one has the history, look. Puppy Pong. That's kind of neat.
So everybody's heard the Pong story. Probably
Can't hear it.
everybody's heard the Pong story, but I've heard it many times, and from Al Alcorn himself, who designed Pong. So
The story I've heard is that they installed a tavern and let people play it as a test.
Put it out into an arcade and see if it makes money. I mean, that's the market research.
My understanding was Ted built a cabinet, a tabletop, simple cabinet over the weekend.
There, I can hear it better now.
Big thing was sit on a barrel. Having an interactive video machine somewhere and having people play it was still a relatively new concept. Nobody knew if it was going to go.
Oh, what is the name of the bar in Palo Alto?
San Jose.
No, it was Andy Caps,
It was Santa Clara.
Sunnyvale.
So we'll put it in Andy Caps. You know, it's a coin-op game, be it fragile and humble.
I remember Andy Caps, the comic.
So we did.
Well, my memory is that he gets a phone call, the game's busted, which, of course, is the usual thing you get on a support line. It doesn't work. What is it, and in what way does it not work? Well, it doesn't work.
The bar owner or manager at the time kind of yelled at them and like accused them of their game being shoddy because it had already broken down and it was no longer functioning or working.
And they get a call, later on that night, and like, hey, this thing broke. Come and pick up this piece of shit game and get it out of here. This thing broke. I'm not gonna waste my time fixing this crap.
But anyway, the machine, we got the word that it stopped working, and I figured it could be anything, and I'd go out there and take a look at it. And so I went to the machine, and the first thing you do is you want to try to play the game, because the machine was on in a tracked mode, so it was working, but you couldn't start a game. So
Back when arcade troubleshooting was different, I guess.
coin box to basically flip the micro switch to give yourself a free game, because I'm not going to waste a quarter.
And so they went down to see what's wrong with the machine to fix it. And what they found out was that it wasn't broken. It was just that so many people had played it, they'd filled the coin box with quarters, and it was jammed, and it couldn't take any more.
So many people had played it that it couldn't accept any more money.
The game is broken because it's stuffed so full of quarters.
Completely stuffed with quarters.
And it was a small, I remember it was kind of small, if I remember. It was a small space. It just filled up with the quarters, and it wouldn't take it.
When I opened up the coin mech, all these quarters just gushed out. So, whoa, that's impressive.
It's the equivalent of like crashing a server when you launch a new website and it's so popular. So they crashed the server on Pong.
And one of the other reasons it was also so popular
It's Cliff Blazinski.
still holding a pint in your other hand. And that also was one of those things that, eventually many years later led to the rise of the fun barcades that we have, and we can enjoy now.
as Al will always say with a little twinkle in his eye, he goes, "This is a problem I can fix."
Basically, the way it worked was you take the money, the deal you have, and you split the take with the owner of the bar. And so I did that, and I had this sack of quarters, and the next day I come into work, and I said, I got the machine fixed, and here's the problem. Goddamn thing's making too much money. And really? But it was one of those great moments where something that supposedly was failing was actually such a huge success that no one could recognize. It was truly the ugly duckling version of technology. Because remember, Nolan thought, he was like, this is just a placeholder until we get to design the really good game. because who's going to play this stupid shit-ass game?
They went on to produce all these classic, memorable arcade titles for years that allowed the company to survive and be so much more than a one-hit wonder. So that's my understanding of the history of Pong.
It's a great story if it's true.
When a story is good, you know there's some doubt about it. Like, well, that's too good to be really true. It's probably a boring version of it that's actually true.
You know, it sounds realistic to me. You know, I mean, I've kind of.
This guy's on Skype or something, or not Skype,
Coins will just overflow and.
Zoom or something, eh?
It's kind of a cool feeling.
Anyway, that's how that all happened. Yeah.
All right, that was interesting. Space Race. Atari's fourth game was Gotcha.
You are our guest.
Yo, thank you for liking. Hello to you. Quadra Tank. The Tarians. Hercules. Do you remember any of this stuff? I don't remember any of this stuff. I remember Breakout. Warner Communications acquired them for $26 million. They do drugs at Atari.
You will hear stories of hot tubs in the lobby and drug use in the office. And I'm here to tell you that none of that happened in my department.
We started smoking pot right in our office. Rob and I were like the premier pot. Sorry, Rob. I and some other person who occasionally shared an office with me for 5 years at Atari. However that frickin' worked, we would just fire up right in the office. It's like, who knows why? It's like, this is like, it's illegal. It's like...
They had quite the culture at Atari.
It wasn't even a sense of privilege. It was just mindlessness.
I worked in a satellite office. I started in 1977, which was still pretty early. It was only 18 months since the 2600 came out. But there was no hot tub in the lobby of the office that I went to. There was no drug use in Atari, though I don't doubt that it was over where Howard and Todd Fry were working.
Drugs were consumed at Atari by all kinds of people at all levels of management, from the bottom to the top and all over engineering.
It probably would have been a different place to work in these companies back in those days, I guess, eh?
And some people abused them, and some people went to the hospital on them. And but by and large, drugs were a relatively nominal factor. Drugs, you know, there was a lot of marijuana, and it participated a lot in brainstorming. So we had the way of, you know, trying to incorporate drugs into our productivity model.
I went home and I smoked a joint.
The game you see now, the Continental Combination Preserve. Calm and peaceful game. Oh.
And it's like I put it out and I went and I wrote a page of notes. And my design for that kernel was exactly what it ended up shipping. It was like, it has a tremendous amount of effort, actually, to get everything organized.
You know, they did have good deliveries of cannabis in the inter-office mail. You know, that was probably the primary use of those yellow manila envelopes. So I think it was, you know, Fridays or Monday. I think it was Fridays when you get these really thick envelopes coming through the system. And, you know, and it was weird. It was like there was a guy working there, and his job was he was the weed dealer. You know, that was his sole job at the whole company.
Can you imagine that? That's weird, eh?
Hardware down the hallway in the building. I have no idea. complained to management about the smell of pot smoke in the corridors. So they got him an office in a different building.
I have been asthmatic since I've been 12. I need drugs to breathe. I did not do drugs because drugs to me were something that let you get up in the morning, you know, and breathe. So and nor did I think I wanted to mix those things. The high of me was doing the work, and I was always a happy guy. So I just didn't feel I needed it. So I never did drugs, but there were a lot there.
Don't put too much stock in the fact that every Atari employee was stoned out of their minds while making games.
I mean, there was all kinds of drugs consumed at Atari, but the real drug at Atari was
You gonna vote in the poll? Yo, you'll be the first voter.
your product, seeing your game on a shelf.
Sprint 8, I remember that game. Fire truck. Super Breakout, I remember that one. Lunar Lander, I remember seeing Lunar Lander in Canadian Tire. I don't send it. You know, there's a button at the bottom you can view the poll. Yeah, this game was made in 2022. Let's give it a try. Alright, now we know how to play it. It's like a disco party in here now. Yeah, this is easier than Asteroids. Oh, it's like Lunar Lander too. Oh, use shield.
You are our guest.
Did it? Said yes. It doesn't have any votes showing up yet. You might not have registered the vote. Oh crap. That game's not bad. There, it's saying now that you said no. If that was you. Oh, it said you said yes, so maybe somebody else voted. What's this one called? Vector Sector. Touch me. Oh, as Simon says. I wonder what the buttons are. Old school, back when they had manuals, eh? Oh, I'm doing good now. Okay, we got 4.
Oh, not there. Okay, how about here? Ooh, that feels good. Ooh, that feels good.
Oh. I pushed the wrong button. Scott, thank you for liking and sharing. Oh, what's the last one? Is it that one? Apparently, not so good at that game. Can you play Super Breakout handheld? No, it's just a picture. It's called Planet Grab.
Oh, not there. Okay, how about here? Ooh, that feels good. Ooh, that feels
Stephanie, thank you for liking and sharing.
You are our guest. Our guest.
Atari just bought in television not too long ago. You know what? I'm okay. AI art of holograms.
When was this? 1980, 81, that time frame. Prior to Ray Kassar's emergence, I was part of the executive staff, you know, and Nolan, Joe, I, Steve Bristow, Gil, Dennis Groth, finance, you know, we were all friends and no politics and all that, and we all worked together and part of the team that set, it was great. Once Ray took over, nope, it was all a closed office, and he met with all his hires from Procter & Gamble, and so I realized, okay, I'm out of this. I'm either going to have to quit because Nolan had gone, Joe had gone, Lipkin, everybody had gone. I figured, well,
That probably happens to a lot of software companies, I think.
and we had used holography. We couldn't keep secrets at Atari. We're just no good at it. So we decided the best thing was to put out disinformation. So one of the best ones was the next coin-op game's going to have holography, and it was like, what the hell is that? I knew what it was, having, you know, been to college and studied this physics and stuff. But that was just. But then I decided, well, I'll do something.
Turn my mic down.
Maybe there's something there. I'll take it. Sounds hard. Sounds interesting. I know. And we proceeded to.
There, is that better?
And what could be done, and came up with a holographic toy that basically sold it to Ray, saying, "How would you like?" Because the cartridge video game business seemed to be very good.
I don't know, the mic's messed up, I guess.
System, but the cartridges are half the cost of, everything is half the cost of the VCS. And, hey, go ahead. It were very simple. They were nothing more than an LED, a simple LED game, the handheld LED game in those days. The only difference was we had a hologram with 2 images on it. You look through this box, and there were 2 lamps inside, and when you'd crash a spaceship, you'd see a hologram of a spaceship crashing. And but you could look through this half metallized mylar and play Space Invader game or something like that. We did all the work, put everything together, got a chip designed, package designed, and at the end,
Hello.
we even took it to the toy fair.
Hello.
And marketing wouldn't show it, wouldn't back it up, and we did it ourselves.
Hello.
We think we sold 100,000 of them, but Ray wouldn't.
Hello.
He just wouldn't do it, and I realized that was it. They're not going to release that. I mean, this is now in a time when if it failed, you wouldn't.
She told me
even
to
know
turn it down.
Pimple on the balance sheet.
Turn it down, I tell you. How's it now?
When the whole company was, we're sure we'd do it. So that was the end of my career at Atari.
Today for dinner I had a hamburger. Taters. Nothing yet. Things moving on it. What's this say? Yeah, but you might be 30 minutes behind. It's probably because I was on a Zoom call earlier. Now I'm gonna be... My Zoom's gonna be messed up. Oh crap! Oh no. Got hit. Alright, I'm epically bad at that one. Warlords? I don't even know if I know how to play Warlords. Oh, this game. It's like Breakout, sorta. The objective is take out the other players. My crown is almost taken. Hey, it looks like Darth Vader on the bottom right, eh? Hopefully I'm not the first eliminated. Well, we got 2 fireballs now. Oh, I'm epically destroyed. Yeah, Taco Brito. Have you ever heard of Warlords? Centipede, now that's a classic. Everyone must have heard of Centipede. Goes with your potato salad and taco burritos. Gotta get that centipede before he hits ya. See? Like one loner there. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble here. They're coming. Oh, just in time. Oh, he got me. Was your potato salad good? Ah, crap. This is like Gyrus except for... a bit harder. Oh, it got me. Pulled me into its web. Dang it. Maze Invaders? What's Maze Invaders? You ever seen this game? I haven't. Oh, it's like kind of like Ladybug, I guess, in some way. Oh. Just freezes them, I guess. We're pretty good at this, eh? Oh crap, it's shooting at me. Oh, he got me. I've never played this game in my life, and look how good I am at it. Simply amazing. Whoa! Oh. Here, Foster, did you see the meteor shower yesterday? How was it? Did you take pictures? Space Duel. How do I start? You couldn't see any? Oh, it's just like dots moving around, so I guess you gotta be watch pretty close, eh? Oh, crap, I'm gonna hit that one. Oh, a star killed me. A big square killed me. Area is not safe. Blue thing killed me. Alright, that game sucked. It's cool artwork, but Gravatar. I lasted 10 seconds. A new record. Am I supposed to go into this red thing? Can't even tell what direction I'm facing. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's tough when I can't tell what direction I'm facing. Trying to escape a maze. Can you tell what direction I'm going? Oh, I'm going right into the sun. That's where I'm going. This is Millipede, the sequel to Centipede. Ah, crap. They have DDT. That's banned, you know, these days. It's really bad for people. Oh. You can see the DDT near the top there. Not much movies here in this later part. It's like Missile Command in 3D, I guess. Holy cow, it is like Missile Command in 3D. Or like Space Missile Command. Ooh. Lost the top right gun. Oh, lost the top left bottom gun. I wonder if I could shoot different weapons. Oh, we're gonna lose the gun. That was work. It was good. Good, man. Work was good. Learned lots of stuff.
You are our guest.
Be careful. Esther, thank you for liking. Ah, they got me. Betty Ryan. She's the first woman to be employed as a game programmer at General Computer Corporation. She also programmed Atari console games. But you guys didn't know that. This game here was designed by the first woman game maker. Geez, you guys are gonna have to invite Timothy in to vote. Apparently he's the only one that's probably ever blown on a cart. He's like holding out on us. He doesn't watch anymore. Apparently I'm not supposed to run into them. What do I gotta do? Oh, I gotta circle them. I can do that. Got two. Oh, I ran into one. Alright, this is annoying. There we go. See if I can get them all. Oh, crap. Got greedy, I guess. Quantum wasn't bad. I'd give it a 2 out of 5, at least. Betty did a good job making that game. I don't know what the heck this game is. Fire to advance. Power blast. Press power blaster to start. Can't say I know what was going on. Did I win or lose? Don't know what's going on there. That was only a prototype, though. I don't know what I'm supposed to do exactly here. Maybe catch the flies? No. You think that's what I'm supposed to do? Avoid them? Well, this other guy eats them all? Well, Black Widow, I guess you gotta mate. And then eat your mate. Food fight. Do you like food fighting? We'll get some of the spinach here, eh? Oh, oh. Watch out, they're gonna chuck stuff at me too. I think it's the amount of food you have left, eh? Oh crap, he got me. Oh, he got me. All downhill from there, eh? Oh, I just about had the ice cream. That game's not bad. This looks like Marble Madness. I think this one probably was a rolly ball. It's like super hard to control. The last bean. How do you get in there? Oh, there's a little elevator. Phew. I got 24,000 points, so. Oh, there's one over in the corner. Guess we're a bear. Ah, crap. Oh, I got nuked.
You are our guest.
Gotta get oxygen. Alejandro, thank you for liking. Oh, there's a game over there in the corner. Didn't even realize it. Major Havoc's alright. I didn't mind that. That's like a couple games at once. Cloak and Dagger based off of a movie. Those top-notch graphics back in the day, eh? Where am I? Oh, I'm over here. Guess I'm not supposed to touch the red one. You went to get food? What kind of food did you get? Hi, robot. Was there a movie named that? Touch red? Touch red. Don't jump. Shoot birds. Band called Chop Suey? I know them. I succeeded. Please touch red again. Oh, don't jump if the eye is red. They didn't tell me that before. Oh, the bird got me. You think it's food, but it's not food. It's a band. It must have been hungry. Their name, Chop Suey. Yeah, they might have just liked Chop Suey, but bands name themselves all sorts of things, though. What's this say? Oh, there's more. The arcade comes home. Don't watch TV tonight. Play it. Play games on the home console. $199 in the day. What's a cart? Like a cartridge, you know? Would blow on a Nintendo cartridge. What do you think? I'm playing a thing about consoles here.
On the simplest level, what the VCS, the Atari 2600, what that is...
You're the first person to ask, though. Everybody said no so far.
...computer chips that enables you to play a video game, an interactive video game on your home television, which is something that never really happened before.
If you're making an arcade game, it begins...
That's why I said that Timothy, you guys had to invite Timothy in.
Just put it in the hardware and you can use it in your game. The Atari 2600, we didn't have that luxury. The game was already in Grandma's house. It was already hooked up to her TV. And all we could do is make a different cartridge, sell that to the person, he plugs it in.
It was the thing that made video games a worldwide phenomenon. And all it is it's a box that enables you to play an interactive game on your TV. But on a cultural level, that's such a huge...
Yeah, and well then you gotta answer no.
Two things that achieved that changed the world, literally changed the world. One,
No Nintendo fans in here, I guess, eh?
computers in homes.
NES or Super NES.
Only had about 10,000 PCs sold.
Those are famous for people blowing on them.
Had millions of units installed. And every one of those was a computer in the home. The other thing it did was it created an interactive medium with television, which was always a passive medium. Before video games, people
That old school CRT, eh?
sitting on the couch watching TV. But video games turned people into zombies jumping up and down on the couch yelling at the TV. And that was a very different experience. And I think that was huge in terms of taking people from a passive state to an active state. And we're still learning the implications of that.
You had a Nintendo GameCube, Nintendo Wii, Nintendo DSi, and Game Boy, and PlayStation. Oh, there you go. Look at that joystick. Battle, I have those. Hard to find them these days, though. Holy cow. Combat. I used to play this game at my uncle's. So you gotta shoot the enemies. Finer accuracy than I am possessing. You can kind of change the direction a bit. You think I can nail that one? Oh, there we go. Any youngsters looking at this are like, man, this game sucks. But look at these top-notch graphics here. Those are helicopters. I'm a sort of tank or something, I guess. I don't know. Here we go. Let's nail this guy. Boom. It's like those guys that always sing about Costco, eh? Boom! Stephanie's probably blown away, but the graphics. You'd be like, man, this is amazing. Look at that, I got 26 points. Oh, I'm almost done. It's flashing. Get working. Work it. Can't hit the broadside of a barn. No, I think I'm done. No bullets. 27 though. Let's see what this text is about here. Gotta look at the old texteroonies, you know? All right. You know what they advertised back in the day? See how it says 27 video games? Because there'd be all these different variants of the same game. What's this one? Surround. Oh, it's like Tron. You're probably supposed to be playing 2 players. Pretty hard when you're going against not even an AI. You'll quit that one, that's boring. What's this one?
The
Arcade to
entire
home.
reason that Atari created the Atari 2600 home console was to put their arcade hits into the home. If we can sell home versions of our arcade hit games into the home, we can sell millions of them instead of just take quarters from the thousands of people who go to arcades. And so the hardware was designed
Makes sense.
to make it possible to play Tank and Pong. That's about all that they did in the hardware.
So the distinction is this. CoinUp gets to use more expensive hardware. They get to use tons and tons of hardware, and they get to refresh their hardware all the time.
I had played an outlaw-like game in the arcade. I think it was Midway. And you know, I was just told to make a game, so I said, well, here's an idea, 2 guys shooting at each other. And so I made that game. My goal is to try to make it like the arcade game, so I could look at the arcade game and say, this is what it has to do. So there really wasn't any need for me to have communication with the arcade guys. I'm particularly
You know, the
proud
first
of the
adult game was like an Atari game.
because
It was so wrong, though.
the Atari arcade game
It's called Custer's Revenge. I don't know if they'll talk about it on here, but
in a 2K byte
it's like you're cowboy and there's a native girl tied up to a pole and you got to get over to her and do the deed.
Arcade game hardware.
When I was young, when I was little, I
I'm
remember
not talking about
drugstore.
rough game, eh?
In their comic book rack, they had these abridged.
There's people shooting arrows at you and stuff.
Read it, and it was the whole story of Treasure Island. War and Peace, a comic book. But that whole notion of an abridged version, that is what was going to happen.
When I did Donkey Kong, I had, not surprisingly, absolutely no contact with Nintendo. Coleco was able to get me a machine. So I had a machine that I could play and look at, and I had already played the game. And like David said, with Canyon Bomber, the game is the spec. Frankly, the hardware is so different in its capabilities that I can't think of any value I would have had getting in touch with anybody at Nintendo. It's like talking to the guy who created the Porsche Carrera about making a bicycle. I mean, it's like, there's not a lot there. Not a lot you're going to tell me. Here's this masterpiece and do it on this toaster, you know. And I was young enough and stupid enough to not be intimidated. And I wasn't, because I was just a kid. I was like, no big deal.
Yeah, the games were pretty bad ports back then. There's Outlaw, the one they just showed, Canyon Bomber. See, this is just like that other sea battle game, eh? I think I'm the yellow one. Keep switching sides, man. That's confusing. Peter's kicking my butt. Oh, I pulled my bullet too soon there. Gonna have an upside down pineapple cake your sister made from scratch. That sounds pretty good. Hey, here's 3D tic-tac-toe. Codebreaker, Brain Games. Here's a memory matching game. That's kind of cool. Code breaking game. There's not actual games for me to play there, but don't watch TV tonight, play it. Well, Activision. Remember back in the day when Activision was back that far back? They were the biggest company ever, and then Microsoft bought them. Last company I expected to get bought, actually. First third-party company. Adventures Impact.
I'd have to say one of the more influential Atari games that hit me hard was Adventure.
Adventure had been a very popular game. Adventure is related to really a nerdy game. It's related to like text adventures or to Dungeons and Dragons more than any of the other things, any of the other intellectual property or content on the 2600.
So many games were just like kind of shooters and, you know, combat and whatnot, things like that were very simple. But Adventure really broke the mold for what the 2600 was capable of.
This one had the first Easter egg.
I feel like magical, impactful moments on
Because
the
the
Atari games is that
you follow a certain pattern, I guess it shows you the programmer's name.
I saw the cover at the drugstore because that's where we had to buy video games at the drugstore behind the photo counter. And I got it home. I was so excited to play it. I just didn't read the instructions. I just ripped it out of the box and like played it and started playing it. And I was like, I'm this dot, and there's like, you know, the duck chasing me, and I got an arrow, and I can't figure out what's happening. He ate me. Oh my god.
The weird thing about Adventure was the dragons were supposed to be dragons, but they just looked like ducks. I don't know what they were thinking there.
The bridge and the bat, and it was so baffling. I really loved that experience of somewhat confused experience, and I feel like that's actually something I love still in games now when there's that moment.
This guy's like a big name.
Games can do that. They can just surprise you and they can make you feel really bewildered. And then as you slowly figure out how they work, that's part of the pleasure.
The Exorcist would be at the end, no, really.
Not knowing what to expect in them. So that moment of being surprised by Adventure is really stuck with me. Another thing I like about Adventure that I tried.
I was more of the competition at the time. Atari were around.
In that world, live, even even when you're
I
not.
played in televisions and
Like when the dragon or the bat flies on the screen.
whatever the
you feel like
competitions
you've
were
been
to
on a
these
journey,
big
you've been
ones.
somewhere. Oh, the bat went over and it stole the shield. It stole the sword, and now it's in the rooms. Like you don't feel like it was just spawned in that room. It's been in another room doing bat adventures.
And what it provided for me was a sense of mystery and exploration that would later influence the 2D adventure games that I would make that would help launch my career.
That guy, that Cliff Bleszinski, is responsible for Gears of War. See, here's the Easter egg. See how it says created by Warren Robinett or whatever. This is one of the most exciting games in the Atari. I wonder which one I am. Oh, I'm orange. Oh, crap.
So one of the first questions they asked me at Atari was, what do you want to work on? So I just said to him, I said, what's the dirtiest, most basic elemental system that you have? And he goes, oh, well, that's the VCS. And I said, well, that's where I want to start.
I mean, the constraints on the programmers were worse than I ever even imagined were possible.
2600 doesn't
Halo
draw.
2600, I have that game.
It doesn't draw anything. What it does is it has these little logic devices, these counters and shift registers that say, this is the start of the screen. This is the left side of the screen. The electron beam is moving to the right. I'm going to count. I know how fast the electron beam is moving. I'm going to count until the electron beam is somewhere on the screen, and then I'm going to change the color on the screen for a little itsy bit.
There's only one console where you have to think about the electron gun moving across the screen and what machine cycle you're on and when you can show stuff on the screen. That's such a fun and unique and annoying challenge that it really hooks you.
It's the most fun I've ever had making a game. What do you say, Dave?
Fun might not be the word. You know, it is.
You made that Canyon Bomber game I just tried a few minutes ago.
When we were doing it at Atari and at Activision, there were fewer than 100 people in the world who could do what we were doing. And that in itself was, you know, very positive, very uplifting. But it's really a sense of accomplishment. If you can create something that, you know, a million people love on this horribly limited piece of hardware, you've created something. You know, have a sense of accomplishment.
And there are very few things more technical challenging than trying to get a game out of the VCS in the first place, because the VCS is a very technically limited machine. It sounds like a fabulous thing, and when it first came out it was, because people had never seen anything like it.
I don't know if other people are as rewarded by it, but you're overcoming tremendous challenges. There's nothing that's easy to do on the 2600. And you're winning, right? I love winning.
And the other thing that's fun about playing them still is that they're all 60 frames a second. They have to hit that or the screen won't draw, you know? So they're all even much better than I think consoles that came out a few years afterwards. They all feel really fast when you play them. No Atari game has any sort of lag or anything because they had no option to have lag.
It's like when today, in hindsight, people criticize the first screen of Donkey Kong on the 2600. When I finished that screen, I thought it was a miracle. And
I could imagine, actually.
you get people on Facebook today saying it's the biggest piece of junk I ever saw. And you just have to understand the perspective of where you were at the time.
The programmers that worked with that machine were magicians.
This is what it looks like on the inside. Sold 2.5 million copies, and he expected a bonus check, substantial bonus check, but he's given a coupon for a free turkey. Oh, somebody finally voted yes. I'll be right back. I just gotta go to the washroom real quick. You can look at the turkey certificate. Oops. I'm back. Oh. There. Fix the camera. That was probably exciting to watch that turkey picture the whole time. Here, check out the Asteroids version of the 2600 compared. Ah, they got me. Got me again when I was looking at the chat to see if anybody said anything. Never looking at chat again. You're setting records, you know. Okay, I looked at chat again, but it wasn't anybody. It was just my bot. Oh, that was close. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Is that like a teleport? Cleared that screen like mad. Oh, that was close. I almost got nailed. Oh, that's it for me. I got nailed. Oh, that was so close. Anyone here still? Did you guys even notice that I left for a few minutes? Which one are you saying yes to? Are you answering Maverick's question to marry you?
You are our
Matthew,
guest.
thank you for liking. Oh crap, I teleported. It sucks. 2 lives just like that, man. Three lives just like that. That's a rough level. He wants to become a Canadian pretty bad, you know. Well, that was so close. It was right on the nose of my triangle here. Look how good I'm doing here, eh? It's incredible. I think this is my world record. I'm usually terrible at this game. Good at Astro Smash. I was an Astro Smash champion at one point, you know? But not asteroids. I hear the beeping. I don't know where the... You UFO is, though. Oh, they got me. Can I make 50,000? Hopefully, we'll see, I guess, eh? Not when it puts me right in front of the rocks. Nope, no 50,000. Sorry, domination. 80% share of the home video game market. Accounted for 1/3 of Warner's earnings. Pulling in over $1 billion in revenue, Warner success during that period is widely credited to the explosion of home video games. You know, and just think Warner's struggling now, man. Super Breakout, Haunted House. Look at these insane graphics. X for the torch. Are you scared of this game? Is it over here? A bag of money. There's a ghost. Hey, Joshua. Maverick proposed to Stephanie and she accepted. So Stephanie's gonna have to name herself
You are our
Stephanie Maverick. And then she's gotta move him into Canada. His name is Ernie. I bet you if we ask Maverick, he'll say yeah. This is like that Phantasmagoria Edition 1 or something, eh? Stop that. He did not say that for him to marry him. You said yes to something. It was that, I think. The eye sees. I didn't ask you that. That was Maverick. No. No one said anything. I thought I was being sneaky because I was gone for like 8 zillion hours. Like here's an arcade game. I bet you wish you could watch it with Maverick. Hmm. Okay, this game is kind of just repetitive, so I'm gonna go on to the next one. Imagine paying like $40 for that game. Get that one signed. Yars making of a high-tech ad.
A fly. I'll have a mutant fly. Hello, Yar. You'll need some protection. Ion zone. Shift chroma. Intensify. Okay, now you'll need some weapons. You have a formidable enemy. The Kotile. Watch it, Yar. He has a lethal drone. And some other tricks up his sleeve. Spiral. Go. Good move, Yar. Now I have a surprise for you. A Zorlon cannon. Use it, Yar. Fire again. Got him. That's revenge. Yar's Revenge. A video game. Yeah, this can be fun. This can be a lot of fun. Like asteroids. Get him. Do it. Beautiful. Watch it. Disintegrate. Now let's go into deeper space. Galactic map. Sector 11. Hyperspace. Sights in. Cylon warships, attack. Steady, stand by, photons. Star Raiders. That's it, Star Raiders. That'll keep them on their toes. Let's see what we can come up with next.
We're Atari. We have the vision, and we invented the technology to bring the excitement home to you.
That was a cool commercial. What'd you vote for, Joshua? Nobody know what I was talking about there.
One of the product managers came by who was responsible for this product, and he goes, "Hey, well, we're working on naming your game." And I said, can I make a submission? Can I submit a name? And he goes, "Sure, why not?" I said, "Okay, I tell you what, come by here tomorrow morning." I said, "You guys won't have it settled by tomorrow, will you?" He goes, "No." I said, "Come by tomorrow morning, I will have something for you. I will have a submission for you." So now I know what I'm doing for the rest of the evening. I don't know if you ever tried it before. When you just try to make up a new word, everything sounds stupid. At least it does for me. I can't come up with something that sounds cool. Everything sounds kind of dumb. So being the algorithmic thinker that I can be at times, I thought, well, if I can't just spontaneously come up with some name, I should come up with a way to derive the name. I'll come up with an algorithm. It's a simple title. What's going on? Maybe I need an action thing. You know, because it's an action game, I need an action word. I don't know the name of the character, but I thought, you know, revenge. Revenge is a great action word because everybody wants revenge, right? So I figure I'll go with revenge, and now all I need is whose revenge is it? Now I just need the name of the character. And then I thought, well, one of the great ciphers is, you know, writing something backwards. That's never a bad idea. You know, the head of the company's name is Ray Kazar. And Ray spelled backwards, that's Yar. And Yar sounds pretty cool. It's got a Y in it, so it's got like sci-fi, anything with Y's and Z's, you know, and maybe an X somewhere. That's good sci-fi stuff. And I sat down and I wrote a 10-page story called The Yarian Revenge of Razak IV.
Ignacio, thank you for coming, follower. Welcome to Star Base.
The game, The Yarian Revenge of Razak IV. I was done like 3:30. I just laid down on the floor in my office and got a little sleep. And then around 10, you know, in comes the marketing manager. And so I handed him the package. I go, here you go. This is the package for the story. I didn't realize it fully at the time, but what I had done was I had created the first backstory in the history of video games.
First backstory in a video game. Yarian's Revenge.
So I looked over this game. It was Star Castle. I played it a bunch. I thought about it on the VCS. I looked it over and I realized, holy crap, this is going to suck. This is going to absolutely suck. And I could not afford to have my first project suck. I did a little preparation, and then I marched myself into Dennis Cobal's office, and I said, look, instead of doing this, I'd like to do this. This is something that I think uses some of the basic game ideas, but I think this is something that would work on the system. This other one won't work. And I just made this little presentation to him. And to his credit, he said, okay, you know what, go for it. The first thing I put up on the screen was an animated character. Most people use a block because they want to start working out their game mechanics and stuff like that. I put up an animation. That was the first thing I put up on a screen. And people would go by and they go, wow, that looks cool. What does it do? I'd be like, nothing. You know, that's what it does. There it is. I said, I'm still working on it. Don't worry. It's like, and then it got to the point where it was time to actually play it and have some of this stuff. So I had achieved my goal of trying to make something interesting. And it sucked as a game. And I was exactly caught in the place I didn't want to be. So what I did was I started taking feedback, which was extremely painful to hear people telling me how much my game sucked. The only thing that really made it tolerable was that I wasn't so self-deluded at that point that I didn't realize it sucked also. Until I worked out making some of the changes and getting it through, I was in very bad shape. And I was feeling some very negative feedback from some other people. And I was feeling, you know, I'm usually the person who's hardest on myself. And that was a tough time for me. And I had to get through that before I could hear what people were saying and start to work on it. And I had to release myself from, but I have to have this, but I have to have this. You know, as a therapist, I always catch people when they say I have to. I always love people say, you know, I have to, but I have to do this. And I always stop and I say, look, you don't have to. Obviously you don't have to because you're not doing it, right? You don't have to, but you could.
You don't have to.
There's probably a reason you're not. And the reason I'm able to give that lesson to my clients now is because I had to get over that. I had this have to that was making things not work. And until I could let that go, I couldn't make the game succeed. And when I did, it forced me to think in new ways, to think outside the box, and to go come up with some other left field solution. And when I made those changes, then suddenly yours was really good.
Yours truly. That's him back in the day, I guess. Look at those abs, eh? Maverick would be impressed. Oh, here we go. What goes up must come down. Didn't know about the game consoles back then. Competition, I got one of those. Well, it wasn't mine at the time, it was one of my brother's. First console war. This game you could pre-order. Let's see what it's like. Oh crap. Still raining there. Playing your game. Look, I got 159 points. Oh, I got nailed. Look at the cover art back then, eh? You know, back in the day, they had to sell these games because they looked terrible, so they had to sell them by making a cool cover. I bought a lot of games back in the day because of the artwork. Thinking that'd be a good game. $25,000.
So Adventure was a really popular product, and we were kind of, there was some vibe around maybe a sequel to Adventure. And somewhere in there, I got the idea of doing a series of games that were contests with comic books, with real prizes made by Franklin Mint. We were part of Warner Communications. And somewhere along there, we had started to be doing bits of comic books with the games. And because Warner Communications owned DC Comics. Warner Communications.
I didn't know they owned DC Comics.
Anyone else was paying attention. Also owned Franklin Mint. Right? Franklin Mint being.
Man, they own everything.
I don't know. You know, they made plates and little figurines and stuff, I know, and medallions. And not my scene, but you know,
I guess it makes sense that they own.
It's hard to talk about.
Warner owns DC though, because I think Injustice and Mortal Kombat are under Warner.
A lot of it was. I consider myself to basically be the showrunner of Sword Quest. The concept was mine. The literary concept, the material. So the games are actually moderately literate and erudite, right? The whole story is put together as a lot like a Grail quest or something in Joseph Campbell. It would be a hero's journey, a spiritual evolution, a life. It's a story of a life, of a energetic, a magical life, right, through these mystical systems. So I pulled a lot of...
These guys are all like 70 now, probably, if they're still alive, because they would have been in their early 20s, I think.
Sold the idea, and it went over big.
When Atari was, when they were working for Atari.
Brave, it was ambitious, it was audacious, and it had a certain je ne sais quoi, but I don't know what it is. You know, I'll back up a little bit. There was kind of a bizarre effort to do a combination of Twitch and adventure game, to merge and to create an action adventure. I think Howard tried this in Raiders, right, where he tried to make an adventure game that was built into an action game and merge the two. So I consider Howard and I to be some of the pioneers of action adventure. Got to say this in a certain way. So you'd play this action game and maybe get a clue, a prize that you'd add to your inventory. And if you had that in your inventory, then you could unlock, then you'd be on this map. You wouldn't necessarily see the map, but you'd be inside a maze, and a door would open in the maze, and there'd be another action game there. And so it was kind of like a first-person adventure with action elements. That was basically, and you know, I got looking back at it when I say it that way and knowing what was in the Times, it was very audacious. And it was actually very creative. It was really, you know, it was really cool.
It was cool. It looks like cool. Here's the official Atari handshake. That's how you identified fellow Atari players, apparently. I never even knew about that. I had a 5200 recently. I sold it because I couldn't be bothered to get it working.
The 5200 was a tragedy. The 5200 was a good idea gone horribly wrong.
The big problem that we had at Atari, the thing that killed the industry more than any other one thing, even more possibly than the E.T. video game, is that it was the first product life cycle. No one had ever been through a major success video game console life cycle. So where does it end? Nowadays, when somebody comes out with a new system, they already are designing the next system because they know the life of a system. They know a console is good for a certain number of years, and then it's going to die, it's going to fall off, and that's when we need to be ready and prepared to come in with a new system. holy crap, you know, our first machine is finally falling off the cliff. We need something. We have something. We can take the 800, 400, 800 computer, repackages the 5200, spit it out, and we can do it.
So the 5200 was basically what the 400, 800 was going to be 3 years before. It's a tough business. Business is cruel. And you know, like I say, I'll say it again, it was the first time anything was being done. No one knew.
And what happened was the Atari 5200, it grew very large because
It was pretty large.
Perceived value, so bigger was better in some respects. And then marketing got really focused on the Intellivision, and Intellivisions had a bunch of buttons. They had a keypad, and they had this disc with 12 distinct regions. And so, hey, if we put an analog stick here, and one that doesn't self-center was the great idea, this will be a better marketing message than the Intellivision controller. And of course, it was a horrible experience. The company lost focus on what was important, and it was gameplay's important. You know, good games sell, bad games don't. If you've got a bad control mechanism, doesn't matter how good the graphics are. It's not going to be fun to play.
Now what do you do? So, and that was the thing. Engineering we really wanted to do something cool, right? We wanted to do like a real next generation, because the 400, 800 was already last generation.
The engineering team and the creative team, the game designers, we were so upset, and we all felt that we were making a wrong decision with this controller.
It was a pretty rough controller.
We put together a petition to upper management, and we just explained that, you know, this is a great product, the control is lacking, we've got some other alternatives we want you to see, and my name's number 3 on the list of the petitioners.
See, I wasn't someone who signed petitions so much as talked to people behind the scenes, because I always felt that was more like the way you operate in a corporation. And but I definitely put the word out whenever I could that, like, you know, this is something we either should have done a few years ago, or, you know, can't really do now.
We told marketing, hey, we could make this 2600 compatible. They didn't want anything to do with that. They said they must be very separate and distinct. We can't have backwards compatibility, which at the time we thought might be a great feature. It's a good way to get people that have these Atari games already and keep them on the Atari platform instead of giving them an opportunity to jump.
That would have been awesome.
Platform. And so we designed the product specifically so that you could never have 2600 compatibility. About 2 months before launch, they demanded 2600 compatibility. And at that time, we had to build an adapter. And then we actually had to modify consoles that were already made, the first ones, to work with this adapter. And we called this thing the piggyback parasite. We were just horribly embarrassed by that situation. That never should have happened.
There was some big time denial, you know, around Atari, because nobody wants their parade rained on. And when it's the best parade you've ever imagined in your life, nobody wants to see a cloud. You just don't want to see it. So we didn't.
That my 5200 I sold didn't have that piece. Look at these controllers though. It was huge. And there's the comic, eh? Quadrant. Oh, look at these graphics. Ah! Oh, I finally got a point. And smoked. That was an ace. Tag the net there. Ah. That was just like real tennis, man.
When you have a tragedy, and I do believe that the fall of the video game industry in the early 80s was a tragedy. It was a tragedy to many, many people. It changed a lot of lives.
I think it's pretty obvious when it comes to the video game crash that Atari didn't have control over the quality.
I mean, it needed some sort of way to keep just anybody from writing cartridges for it.
And so many people saw this video game gold rush, and they just started dumping crap. I remember going into KB toy stores and just seeing really bad box art and just really just terrible looking games. And that's when I started losing interest, and the market became flooded just with garbage. And it ultimately led to, of course, things like E.T. being, actually buried in the desert like garbage.
And what happened was that E.T. became the face of the crash of the video game industry, and I, of course, was the butt behind the face. That's kind of the way it went.
Greed and hubris, that's what undid Atari. If they just had worked more from a place of like focusing on making great games and delivering great games to the customer instead of like, how can we maximize revenue? I feel like they'd still be a huge powerhouse today.
Frankly, Warner did not understand technology. He didn't understand the consumer marketplace the video game, and so and Ray Kassar, you know, I think was afraid of releasing new product because it might not be as successful as VCS. So that's a sure way to fail.
I regret that we didn't have a new console by '84 that would have made it so that Atari continued to be a really viable business.
We never, ever got down to ever having any process by which we could come up with a better system.
Even to this day, I think people do believe that, like, if they had just released like the 5200 earlier, or if they released the 7800, or they had done different things, they would could never have, like, they would have survived the crash a lot better, and they would be like a powerhouse today. You know, like as a kid, I didn't know much about business, but I just felt like something was wrong.
No one knew anything. Certainly no one knew how to replace an existing console with a new one.
The real one-liner about why the game industry crashed and went away is that it was a first product life cycle and nobody knew what to do.
Where am I supposed to go? I remember some old magazines that advertised this game. It looked so good on the advertisements. That was the game. It just looked good. It looked good in the magazines. Make your own left-handed joystick. Oh, I thought you meant in this. Nobody. That one had. That was the worst viewed video or video game I had in 6 months. I had to change it up. I remember the 5200 being one of the closer ones to the actual arcades. Although that game honestly isn't better than this game. Like, this game has like 50 different games in it. And many of them are huge classics. They're just different than each other, different style, but this one's like almost like exploring history, you know? Crystal castles. Bounty Bob. 7800. That's the one that had the good ones, I think. I remember my friend's uncle had one of those. Controller looks way better too, eh? See what 7800's asteroids look like. A little different. Oh. Way more faithful to the arcade anyway than the other one was. Although way harder. $2,600 Junior. It was only $50 at the time. That's pretty cool. That's like those little Nintendo Wii's. Boxing.
There's this funny time period in the history of, if I wrote a book on the history of the video game industry, there's this funny time period where we had left Activision and we went from this fabulous AAA office complex, beautiful. We had more space than we needed by a factor of 5, and we went to the most horrible office in Midland Park, New Jersey, in the basement of an optician's office. Game industry, this was after the crash. Game industry was a disaster. And it was just, oh man, what an office. It was horrible. But we survived in it. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. So anyway, we're in this horrible office, and we're doing C64 stuff at that point.
C64 was awesome.
I get a call from a buddy of mine. Actually, he was our part-time sales guy, and he always visited Toys R Us, and he knew them really well. He called me and said, you know, you're gonna laugh, but they want to know if anybody's doing 2600 games. Because at that point, there were none. Nobody was doing them.
But there were 26 million consoles in homes.
And people were going in Toys R Us saying, why don't you sell games for my Atari anymore? So I said, wow, that's interesting. How many would he buy if he had a 2600 game? He said, oh, you know, 20, 30,000 pieces probably. And I said, all right, I'll get back to you. So we did Title Match Wrestling and Super Skateboarding, first 2 titles. I mean, regular skateboarding, first 2 titles. And he loved them, and they sold like crazy. And at that point in time, we were the only people in the world making games on the Atari 2600. My phone rings, and it's the Tramiels. So he did some 2600 games. You know, do a couple for us, because word got around. There's actually a need. And then Activision calls and says, do some 2600 games for us? And I said, well, why don't you guys just do them? He goes, well, you know, if I can be completely honest with you, we don't have anything. We don't have the specs. We don't have manuals. We don't have the equipment. He said, we couldn't make a 2600 game if we wanted to. So could you make something for us? I tell people that, they're like, who the hell wanted 2600 games? You know what? No one told consumers that there had been a crash. No one went to their house and said, you don't like video games anymore. Because that's what Toys R Us and Walmart said. People don't like video games anymore. But the people at home were sitting going, God damn, I'm tired of combat. Isn't there something else I can play on this machine? So it was good. We had a great run there. We had a lot of money off those games.
Old school skateboarding game, eh? Starting in the 1970s, the personal computer began to carve out its own place in the family home. $500 and $1,000. Look at that computer, eh?
How's business? Terrific. How do you keep track of your customers?
My Atari 400 home computer. Excuse me, Dad.
Why Atari?
Shopped around. It's a lot of computing capability for such a low price.
You use it a lot?
Sure, life's not all fun and games. There's homework I even program. Atari has lots of software, not all the others do. And of course, only Atari has games like Centipede. Well, we executives have to unwind.
Atari home computers. Only Atari puts so much in.
Man, commercials were so cool back then. I never saw that commercial before. I was pretty young, I think, when those things were playing. The 800 must be the sequel.
Bought a home computer, huh? An Atari 800 home computer. Nothing but the best for my son. Why Atari? Atari makes computers that, seem friendly, part of the family. Want to show off? Sure. They're real easy. Terrific software, huh? Nice graphics. And how do you like this for sound capability? Impressive. It sure is. So what's his first project? Soon, the alphabet. A is for airplane.
Atari home computers. Only Atari.
I don't think he really bought that computer for that kid.
I think the Atari 400, 800 were really the first home computers that I felt like were designed to be in somebody's home and for an average person to utilize.
Atari, made some interesting decisions over the years. I mean, they were #1 in the world in making video games, but they saw home computers were coming. And Apple II was out, and they said, we got to compete with Apple.
Apple II, that was a legendary computer, actually.
It came down
I never
to
had one, but
that we were going to make a computer
I
like
think they were in schools or something.
But the engineering department said,
Oregon Trail.
We're video game people. Why are we doing this? But they were told, you will do this.
My friend had a Commodore Amiga, I remember.
Engineers made the Atari 800 into the next best video game player.
You're back. Welcome back.
All the sprite capability. It had coprocessors in there. The first GPU in a computer was probably in the Atari 800. All of this stuff was going on in the engineering department, and yet the management thought we were making a computer. We were really just making a video game that we could make cool games on.
My participation was mainly on the prototype pre-production side. We had this very sophisticated, allegedly sophisticated, internal interactive test
Did you
system,
see any
PIT system,
meters?
that we couldn't get a single unit to pass. Labor Day 1979. Can you guys work overtime over the weekend? We need to hand build some production units because we need to put them complete through the entire process. They need to be completely finished, consumer product in the box. We need these for J.C. Penney's so that they can make the holiday catalog. So we worked, I actually didn't leave Atari for about 3 days, hand building these units. And it was like 4 400s and 4 800s to ship on Monday to J.C. Penney's. They received them at their warehouse. They took pictures of them for the catalog, and then they immediately shipped them back to us. That was it. That's what we needed to do to get this product out.
My main contribution to the Atari 800 operating system, I created a language similar to PostScript that could draw lines and squares and circles and vector graphics drawn into the bitmap of the Atari 800 and put them into the operating system so that I didn't have to put it in any of my games. So I could borrow from the operating system stuff that I'd put in there and use it when making games. So yes, we were tasked with working on the operating system, but we did it our way. We did it in the video game method.
The idea came up that maybe I could get one of these machines for Christmas, and I thought I was going to get an Apple II because that was what I had at school and what I thought was cool. But I got an Atari, and it was an Atari 800 with a tape cassette drive.
Tape cassette drive, eh?
At first I was like, oh, it's not an Apple, but it's my own computer. It's super exciting. And then the more I got into it, the more I realized it was so much better than the Apple. Probably piss off some Apple people, but it was really an amazing machine. I mean, the graphics and sound on it were incredible, and it was a super fun machine to program. And so that was really what got me started.
And you know what's gonna happen, Stephanie, with those pictures? In a couple of years, you'll be like, Why did I take a picture of the sky?
We had access to the 800, 400, pre-production models for probably a good year before they ever hit the marketplace. And I would literally every weekend check out an Atari 800 and prototype Star Raiders and spend the entire weekend.
And then you'll wonder in 2 years why you got a picture of the sky.
Phenomenal. I couldn't get enough of it.
One of my favorite games in the 800. I really liked Star Raiders. I still play that today. I still bring up my Atari 800 and play that occasionally.
Star Raiders was the killer app. Star Raiders was to the 800 what Halo was to the Xbox. You know, it was the game. You really, pretty much everyone bought it with the system. It was the system seller.
It was very well done. It had a lot of depth. It was easy. It had easy modes where people could get through it, and you could work up to the harder modes. And the harder modes just made things a little more difficult. They didn't penalize you for getting good at the game. So,
what did I do with my 800? And I actually did buy an Atari 800 in the company store, and I paid full price for it, full employee price. And I played Star Raiders because that's what you did on the Atari 800. You know, there was a lot of great stuff about, storing recipes and doing this and learning things. And I did go through some of the learning things, but I played the living daylights out of Star Raiders, which was, I think, probably for a couple of years, the most phenomenal game you could play outside of an arcade.
That game looked phenomenal or what? Let's try it. Oops, wrong button. Oh, you got like a forward view. Bad guy, we gotta kill it. I don't even know. But he took pictures and he sent them to you. And then you're gonna like wonder what the pictures are even of in a few years. All right. No, you better help out. Surprised you didn't ask me if I was all right when I was gone for like 10 minutes. I think that's the longest I've ever left the stream on where I was gone. Where's my starbase at that it's surrounded? I don't even know which one my starbase is. No, I wasn't in the bathroom the whole time. I went to the bathroom and then my neighbor was all in a panic about something. I rang my bell like 3 times and phoned. Oh no, my starbase is destroyed. I guess these must be the star bases. This thing here, maybe? Yeah, they seem to be okay. I guess somebody got broken into. So she wanted to let me know to make sure I lock my doors. Although I lock my doors all the time anyway. Not sure if I can appreciate what that guy sees in that game, to be honest.
Atari brings the computer age home.
Okay, Ma. What's the capital of Nebraska? Come on. I'm trying.
Atari home computers can teach you or reach you with important information anytime, day or night.
I already checked the computer. The Bears lost.
How about the Lions?
Oh, you owe me on that too.
And if your jump shot is a little off, we can help you.
He's checking the sports scores.
Hey guys, how about
Oh, Esta's out of here.
for Atari basketball?
In fact, there's no end to your possibilities with Atari home computers. They're easy to use and afford. But best of all, they just might be the wisest investment you'll ever make.
Watch this. Hey, Mom.
See this computer back then?
I told you she's...
Back then you didn't have to... You didn't have all the social media to argue with people. You actually did homework.
These families are learning about home computers. The family with the Atari home computer is learning
Spanish, German,
French,
Italian.
The other
Internet wasn't all full of porn.
The Atari family is learning
3 programs teach us
Because there was no internet.
the other.
We've only one.
And while the Atari family learns to play Centipede Star Raiders and soon,
E.T.
the other learned
We made a mistake.
over 1,000 programs featuring the world's most popular games, but sorry, only with Atari.
Commercials are so like casual. You gotta go. Everyone's abandoning me all at once. Well, that's Miner 2049er. That's the game I played earlier. Bounty Bob. I don't have a light gun. Harry Falcon. 32-bit machine. I'm not even familiar with that one. Oh yeah, Atari Lynx.
There were so many things near the end of my early days with Atari that I wished, like everything we felt was underappreciated. Like I bought a Lynx and I was trying to find people to play the Lynx with me. And
You are
Give me thank you for liking.
Let's play Warbirds. Come on.
And the Lynx was totally Sam's baby. He loved the notion of the hardware. And Sam, man, he loved the Lynx into the ground, right? Against all odds, he wanted to make it successful. We did the original one that was sort of the original design, and then he was like, no, we got to double down on it and do it and make it better.
Being in the Bay Area, you see these ads, come test video games. So I think I tried out in a few places. Electronic Arts comes to mind. Didn't get the job there, but was lucky enough to kind of get the QA job at Atari. Back in the day, I think it was a lot more fun. People playing 4 Lynx games and then having them all go out of sync and then having to track that down. Like, probably at the 1000th time that happens, it does get a little old. But I think back in the day, you actually got a lot more input into the games. So a lot of the last Lynx games like Lemmings and some of the early Jaguar games like Cybermorph,
Lemmings was a great game.
Got a lot of input into those games from a design perspective. You know what? I think the Lynx was great hardware. I like the fact that it was color. And I think the fact that you could have this like 4-way local multiplayer was great.
20-some years later,
I think it was.
Here I am buying a Lynx with a RGB output because people are still modding them.
I think it was competing with the Game Boy.
Right.
Ninja Golf. Scrapyard Dog, I think that's the one they were showing actually. I think if Atari would have been playing its cards right, they might have actually got somewhere with this, and then Nintendo Switch would be a whole different system. Jaguar, that's the last Atari system, I think, before modern day. Those are hard to find. Jaguar CD. Yeah, that system did nothing, I don't think. Look at that controller, eh? Carts.
I remember sitting in the room with Jack, and Jack saying to all of us, let's go back to our roots. Let's do at least one more game system.
The controller is quirky. The industrial design of both the CD and the main unit are quirky. And this, the fact that, like, I guess somebody used the tooling on the main unit to make some kind of dental device. Like, it just has like this weird, quirky history that I think is also inviting.
One of the most interesting things about the architecture of Jaguar was this notion of having the Motorola 68000, which basically was responsible for booting and housekeeping, and then the Tom and Jerry chips.
I mean, I think at the time, 68000 was still a strong processor, but obviously it was in the Genesis and other things, so you weren't really getting that true 64-bit experience. But I think there's games out there that took advantage.
There's so many features in Jaguar that for a developer like Jeff Minter that did Tempest 2000 for Jaguar was like, wow, give me this.
I would say, other than Cybermorph, it did not necessarily feel like that quantum leap that we were promised. It wasn't the flying cars, as they say, that we would have in the future, but you could see the potential, and that's what was really cool. Like you could see the parts of Cybermorph. You're like, oh, fully 3D world compared to something like maybe a Star Fox, which was on rails.
My perspective is the rule of thirds, where if you want to wind up with one really, really great game, you need to lay down 9 bets, because out of those 9, 1/3 probably will ship. And out of those 3 games, one is going to be a hit, the other will be and the other probably might be a dinger. There just wasn't enough momentum behind the Jaguar at that time to be able to do that when Sega and Nintendo were basically already on their 3rd and a half generation of consoles, at those times.
I mean, if Aliens vs. Predator came out as a launch title, maybe the history of the Atari Jaguar might have been slightly different. I think there are a lot more Jaguar fans today than there were when the system actually came out, and it's cool to see people enjoying the system some 20-odd years later. I believe everybody appreciated the innovative aspect, but on the other hand, the software was late, some of it was a little janky, but I think just saying, time heals all wounds, to go onto the Jaguar forums now and look at the love for the system, honestly, like somebody that worked on it, I can't say that I completely understand it, but I totally appreciate it. I'm like, where were you guys like 20 or 30 years ago? Like, you would have made my life like a heck of a lot better.
I feel the best Atari games ever made have been made in the last 5 years. I think the homebrew scene is incredible. People have figured out, and it's unfair to compare because the original people had like 5 weeks to make, ET or whatever. And now people can take, it's like a hobby. You can take as long as you want, and you have access to like special chips and stuff. But still, they're still working. Eventually, making carts that you plug into your original Atari 2600, and they run, and they're super fun.
We saw it evolving, and there was a lot of nostalgia involved for that to happen. We loved this particular game system, and it's a great intellectual challenge.
In 2009, I was given a talk in Philadelphia just talking about the game business and my experience there. And after the talk, somebody came up to me and they said, hey, I just saw this cool book just came out called Racing the Beam. And it's about programming the 2600. And since you mentioned that you worked on the 800, I thought you might be interested in this book. And I'm like, it does sound really interesting.
Back in the old days when I had my Atari 800, I did learn 6502 assembly language, and so I've been messing around and making some of my own Atari games. I'm not ready to make Psychonauts on the Atari yet, but someday I'm going to make Psychonauts on the Atari 2600. Not announcing that yet, but don't tell anyone. But.
What is the point of going back to work on one of these old machines anyway? I mean, to me, the point is I want to know what it was like to be, you know, Todd Fryer, you know, and who was, you know, told he has 3 months to write Pac-Man on this terrible machine. And am I a man enough, you know, programmer to be able to do that?
You know, Pac-Man was actually technically quite solid.
It's fun to program for the 2600 because it's unique. It's, you know, 128 bytes, not K, but like bytes of memory. Like, it's so limited that it helps you edit, you know, and so you can't do everything. You can't imagine an experience and then implement it on the Atari. You have to go the other way around. Like, how many blocks can I move on the screen? Like, how can I turn that into a fun game?
It was very, very hard to squeeze a 128 level game with a, you know, title screen and a boss encounter and all that into 4K of ROM, because that's one of the limitations on the 2600 if you're going to live within the original constraints. And so I learned a ton about the 2600 along the way. I had a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work, and I'm proud of the way it turned out.
I think of the homebrew as the hobbyist who wants to see if he can do it, and he makes a game and he makes a few for friends. That has evolved into some actual publishers making Atari 2600 games that are out there.
But there was a guy came on there the other day, and he's like, I just want to say this is the most supportive technical community I have ever been part of. So it is an amazing community and very welcoming to new people. So I would encourage people to do that.
I think I made Halo 2600.
There was no console war in the beginning. There was, you know, in the beginning there was only Atari, and the children looked upon it and saw that it was good and bought Atari and then asked for Atari games for every Christmas and birthday. The Easter eggs, finding the Easter eggs in Howard's game and Warren's game, you know, those were huge moments for me in my childhood, and my favorite early gaming experiences, especially finding that room in Adventure. You know, that path that everybody, whoever found the Easter egg, follows those clues, and then discovers this, you know, this secret room, this message hidden by the creator of the game, who I didn't even know who he was, and here's his name, and a whole secret room, you know, that most kids who play this game never found. I found this secret place left by the creator, you know, with a message for me. It was profound, and the first time that it ever happened in a video game. And so years later, when I was, you know, I think had the initial idea for Ready Player One, was what if Willy Wonka had been a video game designer? And what if he held his golden ticket contest inside a video game? And that immediately made me think of this secret room in Adventure and how that could be, you know, how he finds his worthy successor, you know, instead of a tour through the factory where he slowly kills off all the children. It could be an Easter egg hunt inside this, you know, sprawling video game, and it could be hidden the way that those Easter eggs were hidden in the Atari games. And so that, there's no way I ever would have written Ready Player One if I hadn't grown up with an Atari and playing those games and finding those Easter eggs.
As I was reading through it, there was just so much familiarity in there. It felt like, as I was reading it, that the person who had written it, that like I grew up with them. Because some of the names that were in there, some of the locations, some of the references were things that I thought only I knew. And nobody else in the world would understand or appreciate any of it. My literal opening, my email to him, before anything blew up on Ready Player One, my literal opening was just like, we have to know each other because there's things in this book that like only I know. Like, where did we meet before? That was the beginning of our full communication, which led to the stacks.
He read Ready Player One and it spoke to him, and he sent me an email that said, hey, I make video games for a living and your book really spoke to me, and if you ever want to make a video game, let me know. And I was right in the middle of trying to figure out if I could somehow do a promotional contest for the paperback that mirrored the contest in the novel. I wanted to do some sort of contest with 3 video game challenges and a grand prize at the end of it. And because Mike made that offer, I took him up on it. I'm like, oh, well, we could make an Atari game that you have to beat as the first challenge, and it could be the game that Wade makes in the novel.
Part of what made the book feel like it was written for me is because of the context around the 2600 rite of passage in there. Because for programmers in the game industry, 2600 is this really difficult platform to develop games for. To get anything to even appear on screen, to get anything to even work correctly, you have to just break your brain and rid it of everything that you understand about how games are developed today and go back to this kind of like primitive, primordial way of coding. And so for a lot of programmers, it is a rite of passage. If you can do that, you can do anything.
Wade makes his own game, and it's the Stacks. It's based on his life in the Stacks, and he describes it as a Pitfall ripoff that has you climbing around the stacked trailers, looking for food voucher power-ups and trying to avoid like pedophiles. And it's like a 1-paragraph description of this game. But I sent it to Mike, and he's like, "Oh, hell yeah!"
And so I had dabbled over the years with trying to understand 2600 programming. I'd made a couple small games, a couple hacks. So when this kind of came around, it was the perfect excuse to just finally deliver something that was all original and build something from the ground up. Once it started to work, it was completely satisfying. I felt like I had mastered what the greatest engineers in the world have mastered before me, and that I finally had an understanding of it. And to get there, of course, I had to enlist some help. And so that help came in the form of Kevin Wilson, our CTO at Digital Eclipse. I didn't mention this before, but we only had a few weeks to pull this off. So we were not only trying to learn 2600, but we're also given the time frame that basically ET had to try to get this game out the door. So we were reliving the worst of Atari's development history all over again, and I savored every second of it.
In our original contest version, all the items are hidden in the same place, which is great because we had people making maps. For like the first time since they were kids, they were making maps of the stacks to remember. So if they died, they could go back and find where the items were. But then they added randomization, and now it might be one of the best Atari games ever made. Not to brag, but the stacks is pretty deep and pretty replayable for an Atari game. That's why I think Atari is always going to hold a special place in the hearts of people like me, just because it was, it was the first, and it was, so needed. We were so bored in the late 70s. We needed video games at home so badly. The fact that other better consoles came later is because they saw the giant cultural and economic behemoth that Atari immediately became. Atari created the video game industry, the home video game industry, and everybody that's come since then is, kind of building on what Atari created.
When we started, video games were almost considered to be a bastardization of this wonderful technology. Why are you using it for fun when you could be creating missiles? I think we stood for innovation, and also we were the genesis story of the video game, which is kind of important. So I think you always have a hallowed position when you're the first.
Yeah.
When we chose the Fuji...
Alexa, is Nolan Bushnell still alive?
Upward swoosh.
Nolan Bushnell is still alive.
If you look at
he is 81 years old.
That
guy's 81.
Aspirational, just in the nature of the graphic. Also, Atari, I lifted it from the game of Go. So it's a game word. But I hadn't realized that it also means bullseye.
Right.
It also means jackpot. So, it's got this affirmative. In fact, I was talking to a Japanese guy one time, and he says, "Very good name, Atari. perhaps a bit boastful for Japanese.
You're like spot on for Americans.
Spot on for Americans.
Yeah.
One of the ethos of Atari was work hard, play hard. So we always had games, not just Atari games, but foosball and pool tables in the snack rooms and what have you. What that said was, we don't care when you come to work. If you come to work, get your job done, we're okay. We're all adults here. And we don't care how you come to work. You want to wear tennis shorts and blue jeans? Do you want to wear a tuxedo? We don't care. We had one guy that liked to wear ball gowns, but that's another story. I could tell some stories, though, about how I used to mess with the people who copied me.
Oh, please. All right. Love to hear that.
Okay. Atari started by building games that you could do in a garage shop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so anybody that had a garage shop could copy us. And so of the 150,000 estimated Pong-type games that were created, Atari only shipped 30,000 of them. So we got less than a fifth of our market.
Right.
You know? And so as we innovated, people would start copying us. And I thought, I'm going to get them. So I had our semiconductor suppliers. We were kind of a big deal in the semiconductor industry because they were selling a lot to the military and that sort of thing, but they'd sell 20 or 100 chips. We were buying thousands.
Right.
And so I had them mismark the chips. So that we had...
That you guys were using.
That we were using.
So if somebody tried to reverse engineer it.
So
wow.
if they reversed engineer it and just bought off the shelf those same numbers, they'd populate the board and they wouldn't work.
Did you ever hear of anybody doing that?
Oh, yeah. We in fact,
brilliant.
we had one company that basically declared bankruptcy because they had a whole floor full of machines that they worked because they were hurrying to do it.
Oh, man.
And we had the temerity to have a champagne party on their front lawn. We celebrated their demise and invited them, of course.
Did they show up?
No.
What do you think Atari's role is, not just in video games, but in popular culture today?
Well, I think that Atari has an unassailable role as being the Genesis story. I believe that it is understood by a lot that it succeeded because of creativity. 30 of those years, it was kind of in hands that were not kind to it. Don't say anything bad. So I think that pieces of the brand were damaged. Not irrevocably, but it could have been husbanded better. And so right now, I think that it would be good to take the innovation legacy and push it forward into the future.
Well, I guess that's good. I gotta go to bed. If you haven't followed yet, please do so. Check out my YouTube. Link is in the video description. You liked or shared and chatted and all that. Thank you so much. Followed. Most recent chatter, Stephanie Asta, who were both gone, I think. Whoever else is here still, thank you so much. And did you ever blow on a cart? 85% said no. 15% said yes. So somebody knew what I was talking about there. So there you go. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.